Hello, I'm Jen, and welcome back to my channel, Literary Love 123. I like to use my master's degree in English to discuss horror from a literary standpoint, and I talk about other genres, and I also like to just have fun talking about books too. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a list of books and authors for Black History Month. Hopefully, you're reading books by Black authors throughout the year, but I think it's important to make sure to highlight some specific books and authors during the month of February. So let's get started. In today's video, you will find a mix of genres. There are horror novels, classic novels, YA novels, so you're going to get a mix of all different types. So hopefully you'll be able to find something that piques your interest. So I want to start with one of my all-time favorite writers. I chose to write my first paper in grad school on this writer, and that is Tananarive Due. Now, she's had a lot of success over the years, but I feel like this past year in 2023, she was really launched into the spotlight with her newest book, The Reformatory. That was in my top 10 reads of 2023. So I'll start by showing that book and giving you a little synopsis. So this is actually based on a real life relative of Tananarive Due and his experiences at the Dozier School for Boys in Florida. So this novel follows the character of Robbie as he is sent to a reformatory that is known for its abuse of its young men who are there. And while he is at the reformatory, his sister Gloria is working with different civil rights organizations and doing as much as she can in her power to set him free. And this is a gut-wrenching story in a lot of ways, but it pulls up some very, very important things from history that need to be discussed. So, further into my love for Tananarive Due, I first fell in love with her writing when I listened to The Good House. I listened to the audio version of The Good House, and I loved it so much that I had to get my hands on a physical copy. And as you can see, I tabbed quite a bit. I did mention the first paper I wrote in grad school was on the writing of Tananarive Due, so I referenced The Good House quite a bit. I'm not really going to go into the synopses of all these books because I don't want this video to be too long. My main reason for doing this is to put some of these writers on your radar if they're not there already. And if they are, then I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and pick up their books now. So Tananarive Due's debut novel is The Between. I also talked about this one in my paper. This one is an excellent debut. She really came out of the gate just with amazing, amazing writing and a very intriguing and haunting story. The other book that I want to talk about is Ghost Summer, and this is a short story collection. And I also wrote about this one in my essay. So if you're kind of wanting to just dip your toes in a little bit, then you can read a few of these short stories. Now, one of Tananarive Due, many books that I have not gotten to yet, is My Soul to Keep, and this is her take on vampires. It's part of a series called the African Immortal series. And I am hoping to get to this one later when I do a vampire deep dive. So that is my first recommendation, Tananarive Due. The second author that I want to highlight is Alexis Henderson, and her book, House of Hunger, also made my top 10 list of books that I read in 2023. So this is a vampire adjacent story, but it deals a lot with issues of class and other themes as well. Just this one just pulled me in from the very beginning, and I just absolutely became obsessed with it. So I have Alexis Henderson's debut novel, The Year of the Witching, and I still need to get to this one. So the third author that I want to talk about is Latanya McQueen. And the book I want to talk about is When the Reckoning Comes. So this one follows our main character who is going back to a place from her past that it's kind of building up some negative memories. And to make things worse, the place that she's going back to is a plantation. And her best friend, who is white, is getting married at this plantation. And this, of course, brings up all the horrors of history associated with plantations, plantation owners, those who were enslaved, and you can probably kind of tell from the title that something something happens at the end of this book. But I highly, highly recommend it. The next author that I want to talk about is Victor LaValle. I read The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle a few years ago, and I really, really enjoyed it. This is a Lovecraftian story, and if you know anything about H.P. Lovecraft, one of the things that you know about him is his very bigoted, horrible, horrible views. And so it's really interesting to see an author of color kind of spin Lovecraft's, bigotry on its head and come up with something as brilliant as The Ballad of Black Tom. I really loved that book. I have Lone Women, also by Victor LaValle, and this is one that I have not read yet, but I hope to get to it sometime soon too. So the next author that I want to talk about is a YA author, and that is Tiffany D. Jackson. Now, the first book that I read by Tiffany D. Jackson was The Weight of Blood, which is her reimagining of Stephen King's Carrie. And I absolutely loved it, so much so that I wanted to go and check out her backlist. So since that time, I have read, let me think, White Smoke, which I really enjoyed, Allegedly, which I enjoyed, and Monday's Not Coming, which I will say that I enjoy, but it's kind of difficult to really use the word enjoyed with Monday's Not Coming because it is a brutal, brutal look at the reality of abuse and what a child may experience. So definitely check trigger warnings for that. And honestly, check trigger and content warnings for all of the books that I mentioned today before you go into them. So now I'm going to switch gears and go with a classic poet and writer, and that is Maya Angelou. So I first of all want to recommend her poems, and I do have this collection, Maya Angelou poems. And this one has Still I Rise in it and some of her other well-known ones, but it also has some that you may not have heard of yet. And Maya Angelou was just an amazing, inspiring writer, poet, and just woman in general. She was a phenomenal woman, right? I also recommend her autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. 1,000% check trigger and content warnings for this one. It is beautifully written, but she really doesn't hold back on the experiences that she went through as a young Black girl and then as an older Black woman. So there's a lot in here. So definitely prepare yourself before going in. I also have The Heart of a Woman, which follows her story as she gets a little older in life. And I actually have not read this one yet. So the next author that I want to talk about, still in the classics realm, is Toni Morrison. And most people have heard, of course, of Toni Morrison. I would say probably her most well known work would be Beloved. which is another look at the brutality of what those who were enslaved went through and the lengths that they would go to protect their children from that same kind of life. But also equally important is, whoops, I'm gonna drop them. Equally important is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. And this is one too that I read in grad school. And it is a very, very difficult read too, because it deals again with no holding back issues of real life abuse and racism and all of the pain associated with the experiences of these characters in this book. And last of all, I want to talk about Octavia E. Butler. I feel so terrible that I have not read from her yet, although her books have been, in my TBR cart. But I am going to read The Parable of the Sower this year. It's actually on my 24 to read in 2024. And this book is often compared with um, The Handmaid's Tale. So I'm really interested in getting the perspective from Octavia Butler on issues of femininity and reproductive freedom. Another book that I have by Octavia Butler that I'd like to get to soon is Bloodchild. And I don't have it over here with me because I'm currently reading it right now. So it's by my chair. But I will be talking in depth about it because it's part of a vlog that I'm working on right now. And that is Out There Screaming, that anthology of New Black horror. And it is edited by Jordan Peele. And I have enjoyed most of the stories that I've read from it so far. And finally, I want to give a recommendation for a documentary. This documentary is what first put Tananarive on my radar, and that documentary is Horror Noir, A History of Black Horror, and it is available on Shudder. So I'm going to link that down in the description box below. So I would love to know in the comments some other Black authors that you would recommend. Are there any of these authors that I've put on your radar and you're interested in picking up now? Let me know. And thank you again so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. If you feel led to do so, please like, subscribe, hit that bell, and never miss a video from me. Thank you.